Welcome to today's Wednesday webinar. It's the fourth Wednesday of April 2018. Crazy. And so we're talking seniors ambassadors in the great outdoors and financial literacy. Because for our go-getters, innovators, risk takers, and leaders, especially those in high school, we want to make sure they are up to speed on financial literacy. And why? Well, because, we need it, but also GSRI, is that right? Yeah, GSRI, the Girl Scout Research Institute, did a survey of girls across the board about 5 years ago now. And what they saw was awesome because girls really see being powerful with money in their future. 94% would rather make their own money than rely on their parents, even as teenagers. And only 13% believe that men are better with money than women. Which is so obvious, and yet it hasn't been culturally, and then 80% would rather make their own money than marry someone who would support them financially. And 74% say both partners should be responsible for raising their children, which really means that both partners should also be responsible for earning a household income if we're gonna make a balance there. It's a lot of pressure too. 86% say both partners should make financial decisions for the family. Absolutely. And further, 96% of girls expect they'll be able to provide for their families, and 95% expect they'll be able to own their own home one day. 87% expect to make a lot of money, and 87% also expect that they'll be able to give back to their communities financially. And all of those are great numbers. I was thinking with some of them, it doesn't, like with owning their own home, it doesn't say owning their own home independently as an individual or as part of a partnership, but I don't know that matters. What matters is girls see themselves being financially solvent, able to support themselves, whether individually or in partnership or as part of a larger community too. But are girls ready to make those dreams come to reality? When they interviewed that same group, only 12% of them at the point of the survey felt very confident making financial decisions. So, only 13% believe men are better with money than women, and 80% would rather make their own money, and 86% want to make sure partners are making financial decisions for a family, but only 12% feel very confident at this point. And so the solution, of course, is for us to secure girls' financial futures with skills and to really help them build their financial literacy. And so we want to look at what does financial literacy mean for teenagers. I was just saying, I think it's felt a lot more pressingly, both by girls and by the grown-ups in their life, as they get into high school, that they need to have some information about financial literacy, some strength in financial literacy. This College Students 360 Degrees of Financial Literacy article talked about how college is a time of newfound freedom for many students, and so students need to understand basic money management skills, such as living within a budget and handling credit or debt, and have a solid financial foundation that can lead to a lifetime of financial success. And you think about during college, I remember the very first day I was on campus in college, the quad was lined with tables that looked like they were all clubs, but about 20% of them were credit cards. Banks and other financial institutions inviting us to sign up for credit cards, and they were going to give us a line of credit even though we didn't have any kind of credit history, because we were 18 and really didn't have any business having credit cards. And so and that was when college was still pretty inexpensive. So we didn't go into debt because we were taking out huge college loans. We went into debt because we were buying the best stereo and stuff to supplement our dorm rooms that were really out of our budget. So we don't want kids to get into that kind of problem. But the other part of that is kids today are often having to take out those credit lines and college loans to be able to finance their educations. And so we want them to go into that with an understanding of what that means. And what does it mean to be paying off a college loan for 10 years or longer, because some loans, depending on how much a kid takes out, they could be paying on it for 20 years, and it's just, the constant dripping of it over time. And so coming up with some plans and giving them that foundation so that they can work on how they're going to approach it. Oops, clicked the wrong thing. No, I didn't. Another place that talks about it is Investopedia, where it talks about financial literacy. And I will post this slide deck when I post the recording, because I've made these hyperlinks so that you can go in and click on them and go to the sources, although it's really as easy as going to Google and typing in financial literacy for teens, and there are lots of resources on the internet right now that are good. This one, though, talks about how personal financial literacy focuses on the ability to manage personal finance. So whether a girl is going to college or not, after she graduates high school, she may be interested in finding her own apartment or moving with a buddy, having a job, taking care of her living expenses. And so we want to set her up for success with that, right? How do you keep a checkbook? Does anybody keep a checkbook anymore? If you're using a debit card, that's awesome, but you still need to keep the register for it, right? And how do you decide how much money goes toward food versus how much money goes toward rent versus how much money goes toward, what are those things called? Like electricity and that, utilities, and how much goes toward clothes or gasoline, things that maybe the girl hasn't had to pay for as a member of her family of origin, but now that she's on her own, she's going to have the responsibility for that. And how does she decide what percentage of it goes to what? Or I know one of my Girl Scouts who graduated from high school 2 years ago has spent these last 2 years working and saving money so that she can pay for college 100% upfront. And she just passed her goal number. She just posted on Facebook a few days ago that she had met her goal of saving however much she was going to save for her next 2 years of college. And she does plan to work while she's going to college, but she wanted to have that first 2 years set aside so she wouldn't have to take out a bunch of loans right at the front. And she knew that because somebody had taken time with her to talk about personal finance. So we want to take some time to talk about personal finance with our girls. And then there was this report, it's hard to read it here, but it's the National Endowment for Financial Education. They had a report out just last year that talked about how the United States, students in the United States ranked 7th among 15 countries assessed regarding financial capability. Number 1 was China. And then the others were all countries whose names you'd recognize. I don't remember off the top of my head, but you can follow the hyperlink because I will include the slide deck. It's interesting. It's really interesting to look at. And so we want to invest. And you've probably seen this video on Facebook. If not watched it, you've at least seen it pass by, because I know I think I've seen it 50 times on my feed at one point or another, that talks about adulting and about how people want to bring life skills classes back to school because kids don't know how to balance a checkbook, or they don't know how to cook for themselves, or they don't know how to do all these things. I don't know if you've looked at a school schedule lately, but school doesn't have any time for life skills too. And kids are so busy with a lot of things that they might not even have time at home to learn some of these things, although one hopes. But what's nice is that if you were to watch the whole video, you'd see, oh, we do that in Girl Scouts, we do that in Girl Scouts, and we do that in Girl Scouts. And financial literacy is something that we definitely can do in Girl Scouts. So if you're looking for that, this is a hyperlink in case you want to watch that video because somehow you've missed it on your Facebook feed. But Girl Scouts and financial literacy, we've got you covered. There are lots of resources within Girl Scouts to help you, even if you're uncomfortable with it. A few years ago, I got to work with folks from the United Way of York County and with the Maine Women's Fund to develop a program called Sharing the Wealth that was specifically aimed at Girl Scout adults, Girl Scout adult volunteers, to be able to take financial literacy to their girls, whether their girls were daisies on up through ambassadors. Because we have awesome resources. And both of those organizations recognized that and donated money to be able to finance this class that I took to several different places around the state, and I'm willing to bring it to yours. If you are interested, I've got lots of the books printed up, and it's just great stuff because it goes right along with the badges for every single level of Girl Scout and looks at what do we do in those financial literacy badges. So if you are uncomfortable with it, that's actually how I started talking about sharing the wealth was, I had a number of people, as I would take it out and say, hey, let's do this workshop, people say, oh, that's not a workshop for me. I'm no good with money. I'm like, but sister, that's exactly why it's the perfect workshop for you, because the whole intention of the Sharing the Wealth workshop is to build the confidence of the adults in the room so that they will do the financial literacy badges with their girls. And so if you are a person who's saying, oh, but I'm uncomfortable with finances, take a deep breath and know that I am happy to help build your confidence around it, because it's not brain surgery. It's finances, which is important. It's very, very important. That's why I want you to do it with your girls, because you can learn it too. In fact, you can learn it right alongside them. The analogy I often use is I'm lousy at ball games, and yet I was better than my kids at playing ball until they were about 6. And so I would play ball with them until they got as good as me or better than, and then I would go out and find the softball team, the baseball team, the t-ball team, to help them get better at it than I was. And while they were practicing, I could practice some of my skills. I still have some blocks on some ball games, so I'm not that much better than I was before, but they're much better than I am. And part of why they were willing to do the teams was because we had played ball around the house, and in a place where they felt comfortable and safe, and with grownups who they knew loved them, even if they weren't great at it. So that's kind of what we do. It's progression, right? And let's do progression for you as well. So let's look at our resources, and we do have some wonderful resources. I'm hoping this is going to open the right window. Did it? Will it? Bum, 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 bum. Very slow, and we love when you're on a timed thing. It's awesome when you're very slow. So instead, I'll just open it up myself here. If you go to the Girl Scouts of Maine website and to the volunteer toolkit, now you're saying, wait a minute, I am a senior ambassador troop. We haven't really been using the volunteer toolkit, and it's very possible that you have not been, because they haven't loaded curriculum really for seniors and ambassador troops, right? But with the new finances tab, you're going to need to use your volunteer toolkit. So now's a great time to poke at it and get used to it. So again, you go to the Girl Scouts of Maine website, click on My GS VTK. It'll ask you to sign in, and it's the same login for both My GS and VTK. So if you've gone in to update records in your troop, you've already used that password. If not, it gives you a forgot my password button that you can click and you can reset your password. Then you're going to click on the volunteer toolkit, and when it opens up, some of the resources, I just want to point out this finances tab. The finances tab that every single troop in the state is going to use. This is how you're going to submit your end of year financial report, right? So annual troop finance report, it's due by June 21st, a little bit earlier than we've done it in the past, but that's because we want it to be done before the VTK updates on July 1st. So this is a great place to start with your teen Girl Scouts, because by now your seniors and ambassadors should know enough about the troop finances and how the troop runs and how much money the troop spends on badges and trips and other supplies and equipment and donations, that they would be able to go through with you and see how this works. So these first few sections, you can just, as a troop, you could pull it up on your cell phone or on a tablet, or if where you meet has Wi-Fi, bring in your laptop to show the girls what you're going to do. And it asks for all income for the year, all expenses for the year, and then these numbers just automatically populate since we've only got one box. So say the income was $10,000. Then it would say $10,000 here automatically. And all of our expenses were, I don't know, maybe we haven't taken our big trip yet, so our expenses were only $1,500. It would automatically populate, and it would also automatically populate these two spots here. And then you need to load in the starting balance from wherever your year started. So right after you submitted last year's finance report, right? And then it's going to give your ending balance of what you have in your account now. And if this doesn't match what you show on your May statement or the last statement that you are using for the year, then you'll want to explain discrepancies like, oh yeah, we've written another check, and so that just isn't showing up on our statement or whatever. And each of these, you see, each of these does give a box for you to write notes in if there's something that you think you want to explain a little bit more. Adults, parents with the troop are going to be able to see this part up here. They won't be able to edit it, but they'll be able to see what you type in for those 3 parts at the top. And then the rest of this is stuff that you will fill in. Only the leaders have access to this stuff, and you'll fill it in. And then I would have the girls help me fill in all of this information about the activities that you did over the course of the year, because I think it's valuable for the girls to be able to look back over the year and say, oh yeah, we did work on that journey. And remember, we got stuck on that one thing, but then we had such a great time because we did a field trip and blah, 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 blah. So this finance tab, important and a nice introduction for the girls to the finances of the troop, which hopefully they've already been introduced to, but just in case, an introduction to how the troop finances are being kept record of now. And so pulling this information, you probably would pull it off of that big spreadsheet. I want to say it's the green sheet, but it's only green if you printed it on green, right? The big spreadsheet that we call the financial report. So if you don't have that and would like that, or if you would like an electronic Excel spreadsheet that you could use for your troop, let me know. You can email me at learn@gsmaine.org, and I will send you links, because those are handy, handy tools. So that's one place that you can start. Another place you can go is to the resources tab, and then click on senior or ambassador if you only have ambassadors. And it shows you resources that you have here. Now, while the badges aren't loaded into a year plan for seniors or ambassadors, you can access the Badge Explorer. And the Badge Explorer is on the GSUSA website, and it's super handy. I'm going to click both senior and ambassador, and I'm going to click on the entrepreneurship. Maybe I'll just do financial literacy. Sure. So the financial literacy badges. And this shows me the 6 badges that are available for financial literacy for girls in the senior and ambassador levels. And if I want to learn more about it, I just clicked on it, and it gives me an overview of what this is. Now, these badges are all available in your Girls Guide to Girl Scouting. Remember the big binder? So you can pull out all of the details of what it is in the Girls Guide, and it will give you the steps that you need to take as a troop for the girls to earn the badge. And then look at how handy. You can click right here. It takes you to the shop so you can buy the badge. It makes me laugh. So there's that. Now, if I had clicked, instead of just financial literacy, if I had done entrepreneurship, it would also give the badges that we traditionally think of as the cookie badges, the business badges, which just adds a couple to it. Did it add that? I thought that was one of them. Oh, customer loyalty it added, and the innovation badges, which are fun. So handy tools for the girls to use and to practice with, like this one, where the girls would analyze trends and research how other companies innovate. These are all skills that girls could use too in their Take Action projects for their Gold Awards. You know, they have to do the 2 journeys, or if they did a silver award, then just one journey from senior and ambassador. But I don't think you can ever get enough practice of analyzing trends, really doing some research on what the community needs, what people are looking for, and finding out how other organizations have tried to meet those needs, so that when the girls are doing a Take Action project, they would have that skill set to go out and do some of that extra legwork and discovery, so that they're creating a project that's meaningful to the community they want to serve. So So there are multiple levels. As much as that's an entrepreneurship, a business, or finance-oriented badge, it also lends itself to developing a Take Action project. And isn't that true for financial literacy just in general? Okay, so this is a super resource that I accessed from the Volunteer Toolkit. So that was the Finances tab, the Resources tab. That gives some information. If you have a troop that is more than just a couple of levels, you might want to look at this chart to be able to see, okay, under financial literacy, you know, these badges kind of run in parallel with each other and have enough shared activities that it's easier to combine, like all the financial literacy ones, and have them doing it at the same time. Not that they'd be exactly the same, but there'd be some overlap of activities so that you weren't trying to run 5 or 6 completely separate programs. You know, you'd be able to have some overlap. I'd like to say the word overlap a few more times. Overlap, overlap, overlap. Anyway, so there is that. The other resource that I had listed there was the badges, and I just showed you that with the, I just showed you that on the Badge Explorer, but what I really want to show you is what they look like in person. I forgot that I had these up. Let's make this bigger and do a 2-page view so you can really see. Page display, 2-page view. This was an abridged version that we did. The text is all exactly the same as what you'll find in your Girl's Guide to Girl Scouting, but we took pictures out so that we could fit it on fewer pages, because this is what I gave out to people at the Share the Wealth workshop. So for Financing My Future at the senior level, girls are going to declare their dreams. They're going to look at their role models or get some guidance from people they respect and put their knowledge together. Then they're going to decide what they need or want. And this is something that I love. It's at almost every single level of the Girl Scout financial literacy badges. Girls look at needs versus wants. And it's a really interesting question when you start to break it down. You know, people talk daily, and myself included, talk daily about how you need your coffee or you need your something. And if money were too tight to have that coffee every day, or to have that, you know, Magnum bar for dessert, or whatever your thing is that you have to have every day, then it would suddenly become a want instead of a need, right? But it gives everybody in the group a chance to really think about that. And I like the idea of doing it with a friend, making a checklist with just buddies and doing it that way, or doing it with your family or with a whole group. Doing some comparison shopping. And one troop I worked with, they loved Claire's. And, you know, we would go into any town if we found ourselves in a mall, the Claire's and the icing, and there was another version of the same company, like right next door, and they would just go from store to store to store, comparing essentially the same stuff, right? But they would find, you know, something slightly different that they liked a little bit more in one or the other, and then they'd compare prices, and it was hilarious because they completely initiated that kind of thing on their own about that. But I know people do that when they go grocery shopping with their Girl Scouts. You know, look at the store brand versus the name brand, the national brand, and how do the prices vary, and how do the ingredients vary? Are they the same thing? Or are they different? Exploring financial aid options. If girls are thinking college, if they're looking for that, this is a really easy one to do in the state of Maine. FAME, which is the Finance Authority of Maine, and I can pull up their website too. They are an awesome resource. There we go. You know, I'm doing everything I can not to sing the song. Oh, here's my friend Eva. She has been a Girl Scout volunteer. She was a Girl Scout all the way through, and she came troop camp training with me a long time ago, and because of that, she hired me to be an adult educator. It was awesome. Love her forever. But what they do, if your girls are interested in financial aid, this is a terrific resource in the state of Maine. It gives them all kinds of information about learning about financial aid, getting some basics down, what they need to know, what they need to have. And of course, it's available for girls. It's also available for your sons if your sons are looking at starting college. And it's available for you if you're looking at going back to college, because it's just this awesome resource that the state of Maine has. So please check it out if this is at all in your world. And if you've got teen Girl Scouts, this is in your world. So show them this. I know one of the things that FAME does is they have a 5 on the 5th, and they send out 5 financial literacy pieces of advice on the 5th of each month. It's an email that I get that I pass along to my kids, and I'm sure they just appreciate it so much. But they actually have taken some of the advice, and it's been good. So besides financing my future, there's also buying power. Well, I don't know why the view is not continuing from one to another, but that it's not. So looking at costs and investigating ways to find better deals and doing some consumer research, and thinking about their buying power, creating a savings plan. And this, if your troop is doing a CD or a savings account to save money for a big trip that they've got planned, they've probably done a lot of this research already. And isn't that kind of the thing with financial literacy? A lot of us are doing it without realizing that we're doing it. So please take a look at the financial literacy badges to see if you already have done some of the heavy lifting. And then you can just go back and review with the girls. Hey, remember we did this? That's part of financial literacy. You totally got that. Remember, let's talk about what did you do? What did we have to do? For the ambassador level, there's On My Own, and this is going to look right at what do you do if you're going to live on your own. Like if they wanted to find apartments, if they wanted to know how much apartments cost. I think a lot of kids have no idea how expensive apartments are, or much less a house. And so helping them understand that when you're paying for an apartment, you might just be paying for the space to live. It certainly doesn't include the furniture. It may not include utilities. It certainly doesn't include food. So what are all of the expenses associated with that? And then how do you plan for the unexpected? You've got this nifty car. Well, what if this nifty car that's got 170,000 miles on it suddenly needs some work and it costs almost as much as what you paid for it? So helping them think through stuff that as kids they would not necessarily recognize as even a thing. And then good credit. How do you build it up? And you can talk about trust and how do you build trust with people. Credit is sort of the same kind of thing. How do you build that up, and how is it different for you? How does it impact your life? If you want to buy a home, if you want to rent, if you want to take a loan out for school or for a car or for something else. And how does it work with credit cards? My son was trying to tell us that he had to use his credit cards a lot to build up his credit score. And my husband was trying to explain to him exactly how all that works. And it's so fun to eavesdrop on those conversations. So this gives you a credit card worksheet even for girls to kind of figure it out. And best of all with these badges, really with all of the financial literacy badges, is you have resources in your community. So you don't have to be the expert. Just like I turned to the baseball and softball teams when my kids got better at ball than me, then you can turn to the bank or credit union where you keep your troop money and ask them if they'll please do a workshop for you. Can the girls come down and do a workshop? Give them the badges and say, this is kind of what we're aiming for. Do you have a workshop around that? They do, and they will. Because every financial institution in the state of Maine has to do a minimum number of hours of community service. And that minimum number of hours is way more than they usually are doing, because they're constantly reaching out, trying to find people that they can do workshops for. So if you give them a call and say, hey, I've got a Girl Scout troop, or maybe you team up with a couple of Girl Scout troops of the same age levels in your service unit, hey, we've got some girls, we'd love to do some financial literacy work. Can we do that? Will you do that for us? And is it cool if I send you the badge requirements so that you can see what we're aiming for? Because we'd love for the girls to be able to earn these and come to understand financial literacy better. So your resources, Girl Scouts of Maine website, and there is the hyperlink there. The Girls Guide to Girl Scouting, and even if your girls don't have them, your troop should have at least one for each level. And I'm fine with your asking your service unit if somebody has an old one that they'd like to give you. I'm not saying you have to go out and spend money. I'm saying you want to have these resources. They're too important for you not to have. You can also go to the GSUSA website. Let's see. I just want to pull that because they do have lots of things that talk about financial literacy. There's a blog with posts on it, talks about the cookie business, of course, the Badge Explorer, where we just were, and different awards that are associated with it. Oh, I love this. Girl Advocates Tackling Financial Literacy. How to teach kids to save money, easy financial literacy. So lots of resources, lots of people across the country thinking about financial literacy specifically for girls. The product sales, absolutely. It's not just about pushing cookies, right? It's about earning money that we can do things with. And if you don't already tally what your girls do by cookie boxes, I'm telling you, it's a great way to look at the world. So you want to go see the IMAX movie and it's a $15 ticket. How many boxes of cookies is that? 20 boxes of cookies, right? So if your troop of 10 wants to go see this, that's a $200 event. Well, 220 really, right? Or 200 and, can I count? 230 for the 2 adults going with them, right? So how many boxes of cookies is that? I didn't do that right. But, you know, add up the boxes of cookies and then they can decide, oh, we had a Walmart sale, we sold a ton of cookies, we absolutely want to go see the IMAX and we're going to get popcorn too. Or, ooh, we had a small sale and only sold 35 boxes of cookies in 8 hours and we were so cold. Maybe we'll wait until it comes out on video. So whatever it takes. But use those product sales to the benefit of the girls' financial literacy understanding, and then life. Life being your troop, because there is no reason for high school girls not knowing how money comes in and goes out of your troop. It is their money. They need to understand it. So, and not their money individually, their money as a group. And so as a group, they need to understand how the money comes in, how the money goes out, and set goals accordingly. And what's most important is try not to make it weird. You know, this is just part of life. Financial literacy is just a thing that we all do from day to day. So if you feel awkward about it, they're going to feel awkward about it too. And so if you find yourself feeling awkward about it, ask those experts to come in and talk about it in a way that's just very matter of fact and very much, this is what we're doing. You can do this. You've got this. I'm all about encouragement, and the world needs what you've got. So please give it to the girls to help them learn their financial literacy. Thank you so much for joining us and for doing what you do. You are a rock star. Have a great week.